As of now, I already dislike a certain main character. And I was like, I need. So we were all lied to. Hi, I haven't started a reading vlog yet in 2023, so this is my first one. This is going to be, as you would have seen from the title and the thumbnail, my reading vlog of the Last Hour series. Chain of Gold is the first book, then we have Chain of Iron, which is here, and Chain of Thorns. So I have held off on reading these two books because I wanted to wait until Chain of Thorns is out, then I can binge read. I am taking much longer than expected to read, but this is where we're at so far. I am definitely much further than this already because I'm reading the ebook as well, and I'm just tabbing my physical book. So initial thoughts on this is that I'm just very happy to finally come back into the world of Shadowhunters because I reread the Infernal Devices in preparation for this series because this follows the descendants of the characters in the Infernal Devices. I'm happy to be in this world again, reading about these new characters because I haven't read this series before. I've read everything else apart from this already, so it's just a new story of Shadowhunters that I'm very excited to get to. I definitely needed the family tree, so I went online to Google and luckily there was, so I keep referring to it at points in time. Right now, I really don't know where the book is going just yet. I'm like 24% in, but just slowly getting to know the characters, and I'm trying to figure out who is supposed to be with who in terms of romantic relationships. As of now, I already dislike a certain main character, so okay, this reading vlog is going to be full of spoilers, so don't continue watching from this point onwards if you haven't read the series and you don't want to be spoiled for it. But I want to make a spoiler-filled video because I myself want to revisit this video one day and figure out what I was feeling so strongly for or had certain comments or opinions for that may be spoiler. From this point onwards, I'm going to talk about things that happen in the book. Okay, so the character that I don't like as of now is James Herondale, who is Will and Tessa's son. I think he can still be redeemed because I think he just hasn't figured out his feelings yet. But I was very offended because he likes Grace Blackthorn, who is Tatiana Blackthorn's adopted child, and they have this secret relationship because while he visited Idris, I hope that's how it's pronounced, they wrote each other secret letters and they have promised each other to marry each other, things like that. So he was supposed to visit Idris every summer, but this summer his family isn't going, so he can't go also. And he was feeling very sad about it. And he wrote her a letter, but he didn't receive a reply, so he was like, why is she not replying me? Things like that. Then there was this ball, I think, Cordelia Carstairs. Their family, they were like traveling from country to country. They don't really stay for long, so as such they don't really have strong bonds with the other Shadowhunter families as compared to like the Herondale family with the Fairchild family, for example. So she and her family have come to visit London and stay for a while under the guise of training with Lucy Herondale, James' sister, to become Parabatai. But really she's there to try to form friendships because she needs the other family's help improving or like supporting her father because he is currently being forced to go on trial for something that he's being blamed for, but it's not fully his fault. That's what's happening, and she has a crush on James Herondale, but he doesn't know that and he just sees her as a friend. So they were at this ball, he asked her to dance and they were having such a good time dancing, and then suddenly Grace arrives and he just drops Cordelia's hands, doesn't excuse himself, and just runs to Grace Blackthorn and was like, may I have this dance, as he kisses her hand and whatever, which is like so disrespectful. I guess he didn't realize it, but still so disrespectful. When he finally realized while he and Grace were dancing that, oh, what happened to Cordelia, you know, he turned to see her. He saw that his Parabatai Matthew Fairchild and Cordelia were dancing and she was smiling, and then he was like, I'm just gonna read out, okay. Relief went through him, so he hadn't done her any harm. That was good. He liked Cordelia. He had been glad to see her there among the usual group of girls, knowing he could ask her to dance and she would make no wrong assumptions about his intentions. They were family friends. Like, what? Oh my god, he's such an oblivious child. He still may be redeemed, but I don't know, I'm just still feeling quite angry at him because it's like he likes Grace, but then, okay, after that whole incident, I think the next day they went for a picnic together and Cordelia spoke to James about what happened and she wanted an apology from him. After that, she was saying that she accepted his apology and she was asking him if he knew of any reputable families that he could recommend in terms of suitors because she wanted to get married. Oh yeah, that was also her purpose of coming to London, to marry someone, I think. And then he was like, but you can't get married. And I was like, who are you to tell her that she can't get married? After that, she thought he was saying that she was so not fit for marriage, you know, and I think he likes her, but he doesn't realize it, and he just believes that he likes Grace. So I think there's this love triangle there that is eventually gonna like unravel. But do I really want James to end up with Cordelia when I feel like Cordelia can do so much better? We shall see. That's all my thoughts so far, and I guess I'll continue updating when I have more pertinent thoughts to update you on. Very excited to slowly but surely get through this. I hope it won't be too late by the time I eventually get to Chain of Thorns. So yeah, goodbye. Okay, hi, good morning. So it's been many days, maybe even weeks since the first update that I was reading Chain of Gold. I had to quickly come here and update before I actually finished the book. These are the tabs so far. I am at page 504 out of page 592, so I actually have less than 100 pages left before finishing this. And I remembered that I was saying how I was going to slowly figure out the romance in this, and I also didn't like James, but as the book progressed, there was a reason for it. So I am starting to like James more now, but still, he's giving me a lot of not like other girls energy, which just feels very YA to me. So there is that. But okay, my thoughts so far, I'm like almost done with the book. I don't think I'm gonna give this a 5 stars because it just doesn't feel as impactful or as world-breaking as the other first books in the series did. Wait, let me check if I've ever given a Shadowhunter first book 5 stars. Oh, I gave Lady Midnight 5 stars, but other than that, the other first books in the series were all like 4, which I think this will be as well. Chain of Gold. I'm not sure if it was just I had too much expectations for it or what, but okay, actually 4 stars is not like a bad rating at all, so I don't know why I'm like acting like it is. I think it's gonna be like a 4, maybe 4.25. We shall see how the last less than 100 pages affect my rating. In terms of the plot, it also feels not super unique. It feels kind of like similar to the other books in the Shadowhunters realm. I really like that we're following the descendants of the Infernal Devices characters, because that means we get to see the characters there as well interacting in this book, but it kind of just take a backseat in this. But yeah, it just feels like not as groundbreaking just yet, but it's just the first book. We still have Chain of Iron and Chain of Thorns, which I'm pretty sure there'll be a 5 star somewhere.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
So I will update again once I finish the last few pages and with my final rating. So yeah. So immediately after that clip, I went on to continue reading and I kind of didn't stop. And so now I finished Chain of Gold. This beast of a book was 592 pages. If you count like the bonus story at the end, it's definitely more than 600 pages. But yeah, in the end, I gave this 4.25 stars. Trigger warnings for alcoholism, death, gore, grief, loss of a loved one, manipulation, miscarriage that happened in the past, sexism, trauma, and violence. I forgot to mention just now that I do not like Grace Blackthorn. So she was the one that was actually controlling James and forcing him to love her with that bracelet thingy. It's like all the red flags were her. Oh my god. I guess what's unique about the characters in this, apart from the characters in other series, is that they have some kind of abilities. Like James has the ability to travel to the shadow realm. Lucy has the ability to summon ghosts and make them do her bidding. Grace has this ability that is like you can manipulate people to do whatever you want. I think that's all for the abilities that we learned in this book. It's kind of not really explained how Grace got that ability. I know James and Lucy is because Tessa's father is a demon. That's how they got that ability. Oh, I'm just admiring how it shines. As I mentioned, I was accurate in my prediction for my own star rating for this book, 4.25 stars. The ending, oh my god, I'm happy that they got married though, even though it's like supposedly a sham because James proposed to Cordelia to save her honor or something, because Cordelia, in order to protect James, because he burned down Blackthorn Manor, he was like going to be suspected for it, she announced in front of the Enclave that James was with her the whole night, even though they weren't married yet or anything. So now they have this 1 year deadline, so they're going to be married to each other for 1 year, and after that they can divorce each other and her honor will still be intact. And it's just, I'm so excited to read Chain of Iron and watch how James eventually realizes that he loves Cordelia. Like everyone knows that they love each other, but I guess James just doesn't realize it because of that bracelet thing on Grace has put on him. I'm very excited for Chain of Iron, and I will update you when I eventually start reading my initial thoughts and all the same jazz. So yeah, see you there. Hello, I am finally coming on to update that I have started on Chain of Iron, and I'm actually quite far in now. I am at page 274 out of, oh, there's a bonus story featuring Magnus and Jem, page 656. I'm 41.8% in, so that's actually almost halfway. Here are my tabs so far. This one looks particularly long because I wanted to remember that I wanted to talk about it. Thoughts on the book so far. I'm enjoying the whole fake dating, except now it's like fake marriage between Cordelia and James. I just cannot wait for them to finally figure out that James is under the control of Grace because of that bracelet. It was mentioned a few times that he tried to remove the bracelet because he wanted to stay faithful to Cordelia and not make her lose face or anything, but he keeps failing, probably because of the magic. I don't know why he's trying to self-sabotage himself, because there is like a certain part, okay, he had to help her take off her wedding dress, unzip the behind. I think he was like gonna lose control because he was like so full of lust and desire and love and things like that, but he failed to communicate that properly, and then instead all he said was, please go to Cordelia, in which she did, and she felt very humiliated and things like that. Apologies if the angle changed. Yeah, he said please go, which made her feel very humiliated and things like that. He can't stand the sight of me, and I'm just like, why do you have to phrase your thoughts like that? Oh my god, you're sabotaging yourself. They're so cute though. They are obviously in love, but it's just like that barrier of Grace and then James himself. And I'm not sure if it's the magic or whatever. He keeps attributing how he feels about Cordelia as friendship. And then it's like, oh, friendship is much easier than a relationship. That's why I feel so comfortable around her. And I'm just like, oh my god, so frustrated. But the things that he does for her, like his actions, really show his love for her. So I'm just waiting for them to get together. But I doubt that they'll get together until the last book. It's so cute because there was this whole scene about them moving into the house together. So James prepared the house and he wanted to keep it as a surprise for Cordelia, and it's like both of them love reading, which is like so great to see. And then we see James showing her around the house, and it's full of Persian things because it's her culture. She is from the Carstairs family, so she has a Carstairs symbol in her own room. There's like a place to hang Cortana, which is her weapon. Okay, let me just read this for you. This scene where she saw the bookshelves that James has done up, and then he was saying how Lucy can come over and consult it whenever she likes, referring to like some English dictionary, but don't let her start bringing her books over here or she'll fill up the shelves I've left for you. He had left space for her, and the things he had picked out, the dictionary, the miniatures, the chess set, were thoughtful, beautiful, and it's just, how much time must they have taken for him to build everything like that? And it's just so sweet. Like, oh my gosh, the pining and everything is so good to see, but it's still not hitting me as hard as the other relationship pairs that I've read about in other series, but it's quite cute still, and I still have no idea where the other characters' relationship pairings are going to go. Like for example, for Matthew, for Lucy, for Anna. I also love that in this series we can still see how much Will and Tessa are still in love with each other. Like all the quotes, Will is very much still present in this story, and a lot of the green tabs that are meant for funny, right, are for him because he's still such a funny character. I'm not sure if I mentioned this already. Christopher is the son of Gabrielle and Cecily, but he reminds me so much of Henry, who is Charlotte's husband, Henry Branwell, who is Matthew's parent. Interesting to see that we still get to see these characters that resemble others, and it's like, I just really love the whole dynamic of the different families and their different characters interacting with each other. In terms of the plot, something sinister is happening, so there have been like murders happening. They still don't know who is behind it, but I think we have established that it was someone who knows Elias Carstairs because he was the most recent one to get murdered, and when he was about to get murdered, because we get the perspectives of the murderer as well, very short pages about it, but Elias saw the person and then he was like, you, and then he died. So it's someone that is on the inside, and I have no predictions just yet, but yeah, for now that's all that's exciting and make me want to comment about. I am sad that we don't see as much of Magnus and Jem in this story, because in this book they went on this mission somewhere and it's taking them up sometime. So I have no idea whether they will even come back in this book or they will come back in the last book, but we shall see. But also I'm getting a bit nervous because I happened to see other people talking about this book and they mentioned that there's a very big cliffhanger at the end. So lucky for me, I waited until Chain of Thorns is out so I can jump immediately into the last book. But I'm also a bit apprehensive because my friend recently finished this series, like she read super quickly, and she told me that she wasn't very impressed by the last book. So I am very, very nervous. I hope I still like this series, if not love it. I still don't think it will top TDA or TID for me, but it might be better than the Mortal Instruments. So yeah, we shall see, and I will update you again when I have any more updates or when I have finished Chain of Iron.
Things have been different for me ever since I met Hildy. I've never met anyone quite like her before.
Hi, so it's been about a week since my last update because I was actually in Malaysia for a week. Not sure when that video is gonna come out because I have a lot of outdated videos to post. Basically, I went to Malaysia for a week and I finished Chain of Iron while I was there. I'm going to try to remember everything that I wanted to say regarding this book. Trigger warnings first. Trigger warnings for alcoholism, alcohol use, underage drinking, blood, death including parents, manipulation, mind control, miscarriage mentioned, and murder, as well as violence. So in the end, I decided to give it the same rating that I gave Chain of Gold, which was 4.25 stars, because I feel like Chain of Iron, parts of it were better than Chain of Gold, but there were equally lacking parts in a sense. So it didn't really make me want to give it a higher nor lower rating. So they're kind of like equal in my opinion. Chain of Iron, what I really enjoyed was the front part where Cordelia and James were like navigating their fake marriage together, and I just felt like it was really sweet and really wholesome of the two of them. Yeah, so I was enjoying that. Towards the end, as we start to finally figure out who is behind all the murders that's happening, I got a bit shocked. I wasn't expecting it, even though I felt like I should have seen it coming. Oh my god, Alistair and Thomas, they had like their moment together and I was like so there for it. But I think after that, yeah, it's kind of like the angst, slow burn kind of thing. So they're like back to the not really together stage again. So it's like, oh my god, but okay, at least we had that moment. Oh, I think all the pink tabs over here are that moment. I wasn't really shipping Jessie and Lucy because I felt like it's kind of impossible because Jessie is a ghost kind of, but he got revived. So, and I started Chain of Thorns already, which I will talk about later, but yeah, they are really very cute together as well. I really can't choose my favorite pairing because I don't know, they're all like equally cute in a sense. Not to the extent that I ship Kit and Ty or William, Tessa, but they're still cute. For the parts that I didn't really enjoy, I felt like it dragged a little too long, like it's way too long. Not way too long because it's like the typical length of Cassandra Clare's books, but it felt a tad bit too long, like we could have had a faster pace. I felt like in comparison, the final scene at the end was like, what is happening? Like, oh my god, why is everyone being so dramatic? I literally tapped this part. Grandfather, James shouted. He flung a hand in the air. Belial, who had been glaring at Lilith, looked at him in astonishment. James stood straight as an arrow, his golden eyes blazing, his hand outstretched. He threw back his head and cried out, I have come to bring fire on the earth. When I read that, I was like, what is happening? Why is he saying this? What's the point of all this? I'm not sure, maybe I missed out something, but yeah. Oh my god, it's freaking... I really hate it when authors use miscommunication. This time, it's like, it really felt very purposeful. Like, you can tell authors just trying to drag out their romance so that you have to read the last book to see them actually get together. So basically, James keeps saying things that are obviously bound to make Cordelia misunderstand him. So it's like, I don't understand why. Like, before, when he was under the influence of the bracelet and he said those kind of things, I can kind of understand because he's under the influence, you know. But then when the bracelet broke already, right, and then Grace came to find him, she told him that I decided not to marry Charles, you're the only one for me. And then she hugged him, right. He said thank God, and Cordelia was there, and like he wasn't even under the influence of the bracelet. So why would he say thank God? That's such a weird choice of words to use. After that, it was explained why he didn't push Grace away immediately, because he wanted to keep her there while he locked the door and stuff. It still felt very purposeful to me, and I was just like, nah. you can really tell that Cassandra Clare is really trying to milk it to the last book to have all the moments, and it's like, oh, that means the last book is going to be so long and you're going to have so many couples trying to get together because none of the couples are together yet. Oh my god, it's so... I think I saw Peruse Project's video, her February wrap up, and then she was saying how she read Chain of Thorns and she felt that it was getting a bit repetitive because they were all just getting together, you have to tie up all the knots, and I completely agree. Even though I haven't fully read the last book yet, I can see where this is going, and it's just, I don't know, I'll update again later. But yeah, that's Chain of Iron, and now I'll be reading the last book, which is Chain of Thorns. So unfortunately, I've yet to get my hands on a physical copy of Chain of Thorns. I went to a few bookshops in Malaysia to try to see if I can buy the third book, but unfortunately none of it is in stock just yet, so it's okay. I will just show the ebook on the screen, and so far I have started, as I mentioned, and I feel like Jessie and Lucy are really very cute, especially now that Jessie is alive again. I don't even know how that's possible. They kind of explained it, but it still went over my head a little bit. Cordelia and Matthew are in Paris. Oh my god, wait. That last part of Chain of Iron, I knew that there was going to be a very big cliffhanger, but in the end when I read it, it was like, it's okay, it's not that bad. But I guess for people who read it when it first came out and you have to wait 2 years for the last book to come out, it's going to hit really bad. So it wasn't that way for me, so I felt like, But I did know that because the last section of the book, after the scene with Belial and Lilith and everything, it felt rather slow, and I was like, when is the cliffhanger coming? And then when it was about to come in, like, things were building up, right? So with Cordelia running away after seeing Grace and James hugging, Matthew finally confessing to Cordelia, they decide to go to Paris together. It felt very impulsive. It again felt like setting up for this cliffhanger thing so that people want to read the third book as quickly as possible. And I was just like, why don't you wait until you talk face to face before you do anything impulsive? But I guess in the spur of the moment, it's easier to run away, so I can understand. But it's like, I was just like, oh my god, she's misunderstanding again, and I hate misunderstandings in book. Yeah, so in Chain of Thorns, they are in Paris. James is trying to help Lucy because of the whole issue with reviving Jessie, which is considered necromancy of sorts. That's where our characters are. Christopher and Thomas are like sadly left behind. I am not sure what they're gonna do in the book. Maybe Christopher is gonna start something with Grace, and Alistair and Thomas can have like a discussion, a talk, or something like that. So far, I haven't read about anything regarding the plot, because in Chain of Iron there was the whole thing about Shadowhunters getting murdered, but in Chain of Thorns that has not happened yet because I'm still very much at the beginning of the book. I am at chapter 4, Blessed Ghost. So yeah, I'll update again when I have more updates regarding the last book. Yeah, I'll see you there. Hi! I am finally updating my progress with regards to Chain of Thorns. So previously I didn't really think about updating because things were going really slow and I didn't have much to say. And because it's not the only book that I'm reading, I'm also currently reading other books as well, and they've just been disappointments so far. I was just looking at my Goodreads profile the other day, and the books that I've been rating recently are all 2 stars, around that range, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is taking a toll on me, on my reading experience with Chain of Thorns as well. So I really want to love the book and like give it a high rating, you know. So far I've been giving Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron around 4.25 stars, and this one, I guess it might be around that range also, but it's really slow for the first half. But things finally started looking up around the 50% mark. So now I'm actually starting to be like, oh my god, I actually want to read now instead of watching my K-dramas, so on and so forth, you know. And it's just like a great feeling to have when the book starts to pick up and you're finally like, I don't want to put this down, I want to prioritize this book over anything else that I'm doing right now, and that's just a great feeling. So I am 54.7% in, around 55% in, and things are finally picking up the pace. So far we have been just slowly seeing the characters interact, how there's this whole triangle situation with Matthew, James and Cordelia. Jessie and Lucy are really cute because Jessie got revived as a human and now they can actually be together, and they're just really cute. Alistair and Thomas, the pining, the slow burn, that's making me like, oh my god. Ari, she's called Ari now instead of Ariadne. Ari and Anna are kind of getting there as well, and okay, I totally understand what, I think Peruse Project, I think I mentioned it before, about how because it's the last book all the slow burn and everything has been slowly building up from the first book all the way to the last book, we're gonna have to see a lot of repetition in terms of each character pairing finally getting together. There is that part. I don't know how to feel about this whole triangle situation, to be honest, between James, Matthew and Cordelia, because it really reminds me of the Infernal Devices, but the Infernal Devices did it better, if that makes sense, because in the Infernal Devices, that was the main plot. Like the other relationship pairings, they were cute and they weren't having their own conflicts as well. Like even if they had, you can tell that the main focus is on the triangle. But in Chain of Thorns, like this whole series, you can see that each relationship pairing is kind of more or less equal. So there's this triangle situation, then Jessie and Lucy have this paranormal element to it, and then Alastair and Thomas and Anna and Ari are both in terms of being accepted by society. It's like you have to spend like equal focus on each, and it's kind of like a lot to take in, if that makes sense. And I didn't really feel the tension between Cordelia and Matthew as compared to in Infernal Devices. You can see that Will and Tessa and Jem and Tessa are both equally strong, so you can already tell where the author wants this triangle to end. So it's not so much of like, oh, who will she end up with, but it's more of like, oh no, my poor Matthew, you know. I also wrote down a few notes about how I was feeling about the book yesterday night. So similar to what I mentioned previously, I wrote that I'm tired of how something happens and I have to read 3 different perspectives of what they were doing before the event happened. Like this particular thing irked me when we were approaching the 50% mark and then they heard a scream. We first heard the scream from this person's perspective, then after that we pivoted to another person's perspective, what they were doing, and then the scream happened, and then another person's perspective before the scream happened. And it was just like, I just want to know what's happening in the scream itself. Don't drag it out, you know. So that was kind of like tiring for me, and it's also, I guess that's why the book is so long, because you have so many characters. The world in this is so big. But I do like that there are illustrations in the third book, Chain of Thorns, and it's just so cute. That was just an unexpected surprise. Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm just really excited to continue reading. I will update again once I finish the book, or if there's something super important or pressing that I need to say before I give my review at the end. So yeah, let's continue reading. Hi, so we have missed the point of updating because at the time when a certain shocking thing happened, I wasn't able to take out the camera and record because I was actually reading it at someone's place. Christopher died? What? Oh my god, I think I'll put up the screenshot here, but I basically was like screaming about it in a text to my friend because I wasn't expecting it, and my friend wasn't expecting it either, because apparently there was this family tree floating around and Christopher was supposed to be together with Grace and they were supposed to have children, but turns out that family tree was wrong. So we were all lied to.
Bombastic side-eye. Criminal offensive side-eye.
I didn't even know about that part of the family tree, but I just wasn't expecting Christopher to die. But since then, I've actually finished the book. I actually have quite a few thoughts, so brace yourselves. This is the last clip of this video also. I have written down all my notes. They are kind of not in order, so I'm just gonna talk about it as I read them, okay? I can't remember whether I said this or not in Chain of Iron, I believe. I'm very like, oh my gosh, that Lucy triggered the dark artifices with the whole, oh, I promise that I will raise Annabelle so that I can say goodbye to her, and that triggered this whole thinking in Malcolm that he could actually raise Annabelle from the dead. Yeah, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And then in the end, Lucy didn't get to keep her powers. She lost it after, I'm just gonna call the demon Belial, okay, Belial, because they killed him in battle. So James and Lucy both kind of lost their powers. I mean, James already lost his, but Lucy was from that battle, and then in the end she couldn't get to keep her promise to Malcolm. And I was just like, don't make promises that you cannot keep, as someone who has done that before. But yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't get to read about all my favorite characters in TDA. So I'm still not over Christopher's death, and apparently everybody online isn't over it as well, mostly the ones that I've seen, and it really triggers me. I'm gonna talk about a certain book that this reminds me of in the Shadowhunters realm, and if you don't want to know, because it's kind of like a spoiler, let's skip ahead to a few seconds later, okay? Basically, it reminds me of this other character that died in Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy, that the person died at the last few pages of the book because because the person was gonna get the runes to ascend and become a shadow hunter, but the person couldn't take the runes and the person died, and I came out of nowhere and I was so angry. I can try to screen record my video from that time to show you how angry I was. 9 AM, just finished reading this stupid book. Oh my god, like what the hell, everything was going like so good, right? Until the last like freaking 5 pages. Oh my god, wait, let me check if it's really 5 pages. It's the last 8 pages, but like what the frick, man? Oh my god, like teared up a bit, but like oh my god, I really like wasn't expecting this. Okay, let's just talk about the spoilers. Okay, like what the heck, like how can George just die like that? Can Cassandra could have like stopped killing people in every single book? I really thought this book, right, would be like the first book that somebody actually didn't die, but somebody still died anyway. Like how can she kill off George? Oh my god, I was still thinking like why I never like hear of this George person like when I was reading the Dark Artificers, and then I was like freaking oh my god, man, I cannot.
End of flashback.
But yeah, it felt like she had to kill off a character, so she just killed it off. I really hate when that happens. Christopher could have had a very happy ending with Grace. It's just very sad. I think a Clockwork reader was saying how she chose to kill off the character that had the least impact. And I guess, but I don't know, I feel so sad about Christopher's death and the potential of how he was getting together with Grace, and they were like souls that kind of understood each other, you know, and it just... I also saw online that apparently everybody was expecting Matthew to die, but she decided to swap out and kill Christopher instead so that it wouldn't be too sad or something, because Matthew's name wasn't on the family tree. And I'm like, why? Why would you do that? Oh my god, just so triggering. And the fact that there was no funeral for Christopher, the last scene we saw of him was his body being carried through the portal to Idris, and that's the last that we saw of him. They didn't get to say like that phrase that they say when they bid goodbye to their shadow hunters in death. And I'm just like, why? How could you do that to one of your own characters? I wanted to see more of Grace mourning Christopher. The people that I felt who mainly mourned for Christopher were Anna and Thomas, and that's all. Like, what about the others like James and Matthew? The fact that one of your merry thieves is dead? Hello, where is your mourning scene? And Grace, that angst when she was happily writing down on Christopher's notes in the Silent City, and then suddenly she turned around and saw Tatiana there, and then she was like, oh no, what's happening? Oh no, because she can never have a shot at happiness, and that was so good. And then what happened to the mourning scene? There was this scene, I think towards the end or either the epilogue, where they were saying how, okay, in Jesse's coffin, let's put something inside that we want to forget about, like from the past. And that scene was done really well. But like, what about the morning scene for Christopher? You have this whole super detailed scene dedicated to that, but you can't be bothered to have a scene for your friend. I mean, he came back as a ghost behind Grace to help with the fire messages, but that is not enough. I need more of the grieving, saying goodbye to Christopher. Also, when that happened, my heart really broke for Thomas. He has suffered through so much in this series. His sibling died, and then that whole part where he needed James to be there to go with him because he was scared that somebody died and might be his sibling again. Now, Christopher died also. It was kind of like his pair in Merry Thieves, because James and Matthew were Parabatai and Thomas and Christopher weren't, but they kind of like had this easy dynamic to their relationship, and it just my heart broke for Thomas so many times, and I'm just very happy that at least Alastair is there for him. Like, my favorite ship out of everything is Thomas and Alastair. They're just so perfect to me. Like, oh my gosh, I guess this is really how a book can affect different people, because I think I saw a Clockwork reader's video and she didn't really comment much about Thomas and Alastair, but to me, Thomas and Alastair are like my favorite ship out of everything. The angst, the illustrations, Alastair, his whole character development changed, and how gentle he is towards Thomas. Oh my god, and how loving he is as a brother to Cordelia. Like, oh my god, what a wonderful character development. And also for Grace, I can't really say that I don't dislike her, but I do pity her, and I'm not as angry with her as I used to be in the previous 2 books. On the same video of a Clockwork Reader's video, I'll link it down below, I saw a comment saying how they would have preferred the love triangle to be instead with Matthew, Lucy and Jesse, and I was like, yes, because remember how at the start of Train of Gold I was still saying how I'm trying to figure out which character pairing is with who. Is it Matthew and Lucy? And like, yes, that would have been such a perfect thing instead of being the main ship, you know. I really don't understand why Matthew likes Cordelia as much, just because she was such a big contrast to Alastair, who was apparently like a very big bully in school, and then she was the first person that he shared about his secret with, and she showed him kindness. Like, that's not enough. That was a really missed opportunity because it was the main ship. It really felt like a repeat of Jem, Will and Tessa in the Infernal Devices. Talking about that, I feel like Matthew could have been one of my favorite characters, which makes me so sad because we didn't have enough time to interact with him or like even spend much time with him in the book. As I mentioned, like, I don't understand why he likes Cordelia. The next is him trying to deal with his alcohol addiction, and then at the end is like him traveling the world. Yeah, that's all. We didn't have much time with him, and he's such a guarded character. I feel like he really could have been one of my favorite characters if only we spent more time with him. So I am excited to read Ghosts of the Shadow Market over here, just to see more of his character in a sense, because that was when that whole thing happened. It was kind of like a spoiler for that book, but it's okay, it's fine. I do need a spin-off of him finding happiness though, because he and Grace are the only characters that didn't really get happy endings. Grace, at least she had that little teaser with Christopher, but Matthew really just... And then in terms of plot with the villains, what is the point of the plot? I don't understand Belial's intentions. All he gears up to is to have a coronation. Like, huh? And rule over London. Like, what is the point? Cordelia even called him out on it. She was like, oh, I didn't think that coronations, which are things that mundanes do, would appeal to you as a demon. And he looked like visibly affected by it. I think he flinched, and then he was like, I am a prince of hell. Of course it matters, something like that. And I was just like, that doesn't... The plot is so ridiculous, you know. And then the whole part about Cordelia becoming Lilith's paladin. Okay, I kind of understood it towards the end, but when Cordelia was moping about it, I was just like, why? Why is it so dramatic? And then in the end, it got resolved so easily also, like just the wording of the oath. And then, ta-da, is the end. Like, I didn't realize while reading it, but it felt like I should have been noticing it, because I think I put a blue highlight, which means like foreshadowing. But okay, it got explained in a Clockwork Readers video. Basically, I think the replacement Belial will be appearing in The Wicked Powers, which is the last series involving Kit and Ty, which are my favorite characters out of the whole Shadowhunter series. Overall, I realized that I don't like books where the reader knows before the characters, with the whole part about, we know how James already is aware that he was manipulated by Grace. He doesn't want to tell Cordelia because he doesn't want her pity. Cordelia is still like, oh, James doesn't love me, he loves Grace, I'm so sad. You as the reader know what is happening, but the characters don't know, and it's just very frustrating for my side. I guess I just like being dumb. That's why I guess in thrillers I like to guess along and then be shocked at the end as well. But okay, what is different about this series compared to the other books is that I feel like this book is more graphic and more steamy. Like the one with Lucy and Emmanuel Gast, him being ripped apart at the end, and then Tatiana attempting to draw a rune on 3-year-old Alexander, the one where Belial uses humans to convey his messages and they slowly rot. Oh my god. And then the characters have a lot of sex and it's just like, it fades to black, but you know what's happening there, and it's just like, okay. And the epilogue is so long. Like, one irritating thing about this book is that apart from all the repetitive scenes like Cordelia ran and the same thing happening 3 times from different characters' point of view, is that once the climax happens, it still takes a while before the book ends, and it's like, why? It's too long, this series. The parts that were too long could have been cut down and given more time to specific characters like Matthew, for example, and it's just such a wasted opportunity. Overall, I felt like the last book was not the best, and I decided to give it 3.5 stars. I actually had to think about it a few days after I finished Chain of Thorns, because I just keep thinking about how there were so many wasted opportunities, and the whole thing with Christopher, like, definitely not my favorite Shadowhunter series, which is why I was about to say that I'm very scared for The Wicked Powers, because Kit and Ty are my favorite characters, and if it were to happen like how it happened for this series, I'll be very sad. But also because maybe I held off on reading the first 2 books until the 3rd book came out, so there was a lot of excitement and expectations, but I feel like I don't think I can take it if I read book by book as it comes out also. I think I'll just do a similar video for this when The Wicked Powers, I think, eventually comes out. Hopefully it won't be a disappointment. I mean, I still gave the first book and the second book 4.25 stars and the last book 3.5, so it's not necessarily super terrible, but it's just a disappointment. If you have reached to this point of the video, which is literally the ending, I've been filming for 20 minutes, thank you, and let me know any of your thoughts while reading this series down in the comments below. Let's have a discussion. And I literally can't believe that I took so long to read these books. Like, oh my gosh, I spent 16 days on Chain of Gold and 15 days each for Chain of Iron and Chain of Thorns. It could have been longer because I remember I locked the books quite late, which explains why my February and March I only read like 7 and 5 books each, but for the 5 books that I read in March, the total page count exceeded that of February. So it's like, but yeah, it's already April and hopefully I'll get to read more books because my reading goal is already falling behind to more reading challenges. And okay, if you like this video, please give this video a thumbs up, consider subscribing to my channel for more of such content, and I hope you're having a great day or a great week whenever or wherever you're watching. Stay hydrated and I'll see you in my next video.